Bold Predictions Chapter 25 literally could not happen without you. These are the predictions you would back up with your own hard-earned money, or so you say. Let's start it off in the state of Texas. This one's from Footballaholic. Now, I want to ignore the last part because we don't predict injuries, but this first part's bold enough. Quinn Ewers will not start until week 6, and Hudson Card only gets dethroned there, he says, due to injury. I'm not going to predict injuries. Let's just say, though, Quinn Ewers is not the starting quarterback at Texas to start the year. Out of Steve Sarkisian's own mouth at Big 12 Media Days last week, he pretty much told you this is a 9 on the boldness scale, at least. He said something to the effect of, we haven't decided who our starting quarterback is yet, but we're not going to wait nearly as long as we did last year. Allow me to translate. We've decided who our starting quarterback is going to be, and we want Hudson Card to stick around, so we're going to paint the illusion of competition into fall camp. Quinn Ewers is your starter, unless he gets hurt. Now, think about this. Let's just say, for argument's sake, you're right. And let's say Quinn Ewers doesn't have this job locked down. We've still got the whole Bama conundrum here in the corner of the room that is, I guess it's kind of the proverbial elephant in the room. The Bama conundrum goes a little something like this. If Hudson Card wins this job, they play Bama in week 2. If Texas is good enough with Hudson Card at quarterback to beat Alabama, he's not getting benched in week 6. If he was good enough to do that, he's good enough to do anything they need him to do. Secondly, if he's not good enough to beat Bama, that's probably the game where Bama gets up on him, and then you see Quinn Ewers come in the game, and at that point, I can guarantee you either UTSA, Texas Tech, West Virginia, one of those games, Quinn Ewers is going to start. This is all a moot point. We're wasting time because Quinn Ewers will start. But if he doesn't, the Bama game in week 2, I think, would be the time where he did. Little message sent there. So that's a 9 on the boldness scale. Next up, we got another, this is an 8.5 for me on the boldness scale. Bo Newton, really familiar name. A couple of them, actually. He said, Auburn, in parentheses, FPI's number 11 team in the country. LOLOL, my letters, not his. He continues, Auburn wins 9+ games this year. Well, this is an 8.5 on the boldness scale. Let's start with the over-under win total. It's 6. Now let's look at the schedule, and you see the odds to win the title. Oh, my goodness. Auburn is, have we ever said plus 12,500 to win anything? No, we haven't. But that is the current number next to Auburn to win the SEC championship. Here's what we'll do for time's sake. I'm going to give Auburn Mercer, San Jose State, Western Kentucky, 3-0. I got no problem ceding that to you. Here's the problem. In order to reach 9 wins, they're going to have to go 6-3 against these teams. Penn State, Missouri, LSU, at Georgia, at Ole Miss, Arkansas, at Mississippi State, A&M, at Alabama. They're not going to be favored in very many of those. That's not the end of the world. People have pulled upsets before, but you're going to have to win 6 of those games. I had Stats and Info run the numbers. That is 66.6% of the remaining games Auburn's going to have to win. And it's not like it's impossible. And people who know the history of Auburn football would be the first ones to tell you, the years you expect the least, they do the most. I get it, man. I grew up in Columbus. You can practically hear the echo of the stadium where I grew up. But where are their edges? You've got to find me something. Tank Bigsby, phenomenal football player. You are not using Wisconsin methodology to get past 6 of these 9 teams. A couple of them maybe just hand a game to you, and you run the ball at a 70-30 clip to the amount of times you throw it, and that may be how you win a couple of games. They're not winning 6 of the remaining games that way. So what else do you have? Do you have an edge at quarterback that I don't know about? Do you have that wide receiver group performing at a level that maybe above and beyond what I expect them to do? Is there some other edge that you're taking into these games? I got a problem finding it, and that's why I can't go this high. So I'm saying Auburn winning 9 or more games, that is an 8.5 on the boldness scale. And it's only that low because I know the history of Auburn football. Next up, let's go to Morgantown, West Virginia. Mitch said West Virginia's over-under is 5.5 wins. I'm hammering that over with confidence. In fact, my bold prediction is if the line was 7, I'd still take the over. Well then, that gives us something to chew on here. And he kept going, talking about the personnel there. This team is one of our POP candidates. We haven't done our POP preview yet, which in our world stands for proof of performance. But in late kick terminology, this means a team that could be a firecracker team this year. It's because there are a couple of things that happen for them, is kind of like the old Coke bottle. It could be flat or it could be shaken up and ready to go all over the place, and you don't really know until you twist the top. West Virginia, man, they could be fizzed up. They could be ready to go. They won 6 games last year. A lot's changed, though. So if you were to crack open a preview magazine, I imagine they're talking about how unproven they are in the secondary, which they are, and maybe even quarterback. JT Daniels has come in there, so that's one of the biggest transfers in the quarterback market that you saw. But what I want to remind you is, like I said, they won 6 games last year. There's a difference in being thin and just being unproven. Because I'm reading a lot of what Neil Brown has said up there over the past few months. I don't think they lack confidence in the personnel they have in the secondary. Some places, when you lose the amount of talent they have, you just don't have anything to replace it, you lack confidence. No, they lack cohesion. They lack, proven production at West Virginia. They don't lack talent, though. So, the big challenge is, okay, talented teams have struggled before. How do we turn this into a unit? Well, that's the first thing to watch when they play Pitt to open the season. But the second thing is JT Daniels at quarterback, playing behind a good offensive line, got good skill talent out wide, so he's not coming in there having to shoulder a vast majority of the load like maybe you would have on prior West Virginia teams. I'm saying all that to say I don't think this is bold. They never have an easy schedule because every road game they have in conference is minimum 1,000 miles, which is ludicrous. Welcome to 2022, though. But I still think, I agree with you. They're going to go over 7 wins. I happen to have this team circled as a little bit of a pop team. So I like that. It's only a 5 on the boldness scale for me. However, I cannot stay that low on the boldness scale for the next prediction, because the next prediction takes us to Lawrence, Kansas. Will said Kansas is going to make a bowl game this year. That includes a win over Kansas State. I'm not even going to acknowledge the second part because the first part was plenty bold enough. This is a 9.25, so it's the boldest prediction we have. Actually, the next one's even bolder than that. We got a bunch of boldness tonight. I'm going to go 9.25 on this. Kansas making a bowl game. I want to read a list for you because there could be 2 things that are true here. It could be true that Kansas is noticeably improved this year and also well short of bowl eligibility. Listen to this list. Play the Sarah McLachlan music in the background if you have it. 2, 0, 3, 3, 1, 2, 0, 3, 3, 1, 2, 3, 5. That would be the win totals over the past 13 years for Kansas football. You got to go back to 2009 before you find a year where they got halfway to bowl eligibility. You talk about a ground-up rebuild. This is the definition of it. I actually have confidence in them hitting the over this year, which I think is at 2.5. I got confidence in that. I don't think people are fully appreciating what a 4-win season at Kansas this year would mean. It would mean a lot, a whole heck of a lot. And it could be that they're elevating eventually to respectability in Kansas terms, like we haven't seen since the latter part of the 2000s. But guys, I just wanted to read that list to you, not to knock Kansas. I mean, the Wikipedia page does that for me. I wanted to read that list to let you know there could be quantum leaps of improvement this year and them finish 2 games below bowl eligibility. So I don't think they're going bowling. Also, they're out of conference. Takes them to Houston. They got Duke coming in there. That Duke-Kansas game on the gridiron. But I can't go that far. I wish I could. Well, listen, there's no prediction out of the 5 tonight I'd love to be wrong on more than Kansas. Kansas feels like the kind of team that we as a collective, not NIL, could hitch our wagon to. I would love nothing more than to find ourselves in mid-November pulling for Kansas, like one of those major league type situations. They're coming up from the grave and everyone's left them for dead, but then all of a sudden here they go on a late season run, and it's just all of a sudden the world starts to take notice, and the world's attention of college football, at least, is on Lawrence, Kansas. I love that. I don't think we're seeing that this year. Don't lose hope. I just don't think we're seeing that this year. Last one, and maybe you haven't noticed this, but Freggin Pissed, what easily the best name we've had tonight so far. Freggin, Mr. Freggin, said after signing the number 1 class last year, Texas A&M will not land in the top 20 for this cycle. This is a 9.5. But if you looked at the team recruiting rankings right now, you got to scroll quite a ways before you find Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M. You know why? Because they're ranked 60th or at least they were as of an hour ago. So what do we think about that? Well, what I think is it's really early. I think that they've got 5 total commits. Average recruit is ranked 90.79. All I think is December, it's going to be very active again for the Aggies. That's what I think. So this is boldness bordering on insane. They're going to be top 20. I went and looked last year just for a comparative data point. If you were to go to the 20th ranked class last year, that was Florida State, and they finished with an overall class rating of 229.46. I don't believe A&M is going to be in the 220s or the 230s or the 240s. I think they'll be well north of 250, and therefore I think they'll be squarely inside the top 15, if not inside the top 10. I just think they're going to move a whole lot later. And think about how they finished last year and what kind of confidence they probably have. They probably sat around afterwards, kind of a little post-mortem, after last year's class and said, now that we got this weapon in our back pocket, we can move whenever we want to. I mean, we'd love to take kids in July, but you know what? Let's fine-tune our filters a little bit, and let's take a little more time. Hey, let's eval some kids early in their senior year. What a bold approach that is these days. Let's do that because we can, because we're A&M. They're going to move. They'll be a big mover. It would surprise me a lot more if they were outside the top 20 than it will be if they're inside the top 10. I'll put it out there like that. And I'm pretty sure that made sense. Bold predictions. 25th chapter tonight. Good for us and good for bold predictions.